praise to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome, bienvenue. Tout le monde. What would you say? Cause en anglais? Everyone understands English, or do we need a translation? Everyone understands, yeah? Okay. Can we please project this now? Okay. Okay. That one, I see. Thank you. So, Hare Krishna devotees, Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patidanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So devotees, Hare Krishna, and thank you very much for coming. I'm very happy to be here in your association. And we are going to do a short seminar this evening and tomorrow morning. I believe tomorrow morning we start at 10, am I right? 10 o'clock. So please be here on time. Yes. So, a short seminar on the subject, as you see here, the demons in Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes and the anathas they represent. It is actually just an abbreviated version of a much longer seminar that we do, that we've done many times actually. I think the first time I did it, I forget, like 93, 94, so 25 years ago. But it's a very interesting subject. There, in Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes, there are 21 demons who Krishna encounters. Most of them he kills, a few he doesn't kill, a few are not exactly demons. Like in the Govardhan Leela, there's Lord Indra. He's not a demon, he's a demigod. But he gets into a very materialistic state of mind. And in the Brahma Vimohana Leela, there is Lord Brahma. And he's definitely not a demon. He is the head of our sampradaya. But still, he also gets into some fairly major state of bewilderment by Krishna's arrangement. So there's 21. And we're going to go through them right now in the next few minutes, so you can list them out, because hopefully, seeing you as students, and this is a seminar, and this is not just our usual semi-entertainment type of class or whatever you might say, but this is actually educational. So hopefully you've come with pens and paper. Yes, thank you. Well done. So yes, first of all, just a little background. This whole idea, the whole idea that these, we'll just call them the demons, that these demons represent different anathas. Anatha meaning some unwanted thing, usually internal, some sort of misconception or something like that within our minds. Not always, but some sort of obstacle, some sort of unwanted thing in our Krishna consciousness. Anatha. Artha actually means something useful, helpful, beneficial, positive. Anatha means something useless or even detrimental. Okay, so the idea first came from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He has written about it in two of his books, mainly in a book called Sri Chaitanya Shikshamrita, which is sort of available to some degree in English. You might find one, at least if you're in India. Outside India, I don't know, really. And of course, it's dealing with many things, the book, but there's a section in which he discusses these 21 demons and says that they represent, each one represents a different anatha. Then again, he discusses in the same terms, basically, in another book called Sri Krishna Samhita. Sri Krishna Samhita, which is also available in English. So, if you wanted to do further research or whatever, you could try and locate either or both of those books. So it's only the demons in Vrindavan Leela that Bhaktivinoda Thakur discusses in these terms. Of course, when you go through the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there are plenty of demons outside of Vrindavan when Krishna's gone to Mathura, and then when Krishna went to Dwarka. But the only ones who Bhaktivinoda Thakur discusses in these terms, representing specific anathas, are these 21 from Krishna's Vrindavan Leela. And if you're familiar enough with Krishna's Vrindavan Leela, you would know that Krishna killed or whatever, defeated 19 of the 21. The other 2 were killed, in fact, by Lord Balaram. Now, I know that you are all serious students of Krishna consciousness, and I really appreciate that greatly. So you're all, well versed in all these things. So one of the men, can you please tell us one of the 2 demons killed by Balaram? Pralambasura. And one of the Matajis, the other one? Yes, Tushti. Dhenukasura. Thank you, Tushti. Right, so Pralambasura and Dhenukasura. Now, again, just in sort of with the idea of background, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, well, let us say, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says basically that Pralambasura represents more or less like the mode of passion in a broad sense, in a general sense. Dhenukasura being in the form of a donkey represents basically the mode of ignorance. And these are two big anathas. If you're in passion or in ignorance, these are big anathas. The other 19, the anathas which the demons killed by Krishna represent, they're more detailed, you could say. Even in a sense, you could say that they are subsets, subdivisions of passion and ignorance. For example, you see here, Putana is the first demon. She represents the pseudo-guru, who is either a cheating so-called religionist, spiritualist, so-called guru, or your mind. So now, if we look at that, we would say that this is part of ignorance. It's part of ignorance to be fooled by your mind, or some, we will not mention any names, but India has produced quite a number of these people who are misleading so-called gurus. So that's part of ignorance. So like this, if we study as we go through, we'll look at these demons and we'll see that the anathas that the demons killed by Krishna represent, they're generally some sort of subdivisions of passion and ignorance, but Pralambasura, passion, and Dhenukasura, ignorance, these are they're like maha-anathas, you could say. Very big and kind of all-encompassing anathas. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur makes an interesting point in terms of overcoming these anathas, getting free from these anathas. He makes the point that in many cases, at least in many cases, the anathas which the demons killed by Krishna represent, in many cases, you can overcome them just by your ongoing practice of Krishna consciousness, without necessarily making some special kind of just extra effort. If you just carry on chanting your rounds and practicing and following the process, then generally, at least in many cases, these anathas that the demons killed by Krishna represent, they'll just sort of dissolve away and just kind of disappear over the course of a bit of time. But he makes the point that the anathas which Pralambasura and Dhenukasura represent, basically passion and ignorance, he says you definitely have to make special efforts to overcome those. And they, of course, the demons are killed by Balaram. Balaram is the original spiritual master. This is one type of role or position that Balaram has, because Balaram is the first expansion, and he's the brother, and he's actually the older brother, and they are just together, except for when Krishna dances with the gopis. Other than that time, they're together. They're together in the morning before they go out herding the cows. Then they're together the whole day right into the late afternoon or early evening, herding the cows. So therefore, Balaram, because he's so close to Krishna, even in just physical sort of geographical terms, he's just really close to Krishna, right by his side. Therefore, Balaram knows Krishna well. He really, really knows Krishna. And you could say that is the qualification, or one of the very major qualifications for being a spiritual master. So he knows Krishna. He knows how Krishna feels. He knows how Krishna thinks. He knows what pleases Krishna, what displeases Krishna. He knows all these things so much. Therefore, he's taken to be the original spiritual master. Sometimes Radharani is also. But anyway, in this case, Balaram is the original spiritual master. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur makes the point that in order to overcome these anathas, passion and ignorance, we have to take shelter of Balaram through the spiritual master. Balaram, Bala, means strength, power, spiritual strength. So one gets spiritual strength through being connected to the spiritual master who's connected to Balaram, and through whom you become connected with Balaram. Yes, so that's just sort of a little bit by the way. And as we said, normally we actually do this seminar over, it's about, I'd say, 15 hours. Here we have like 4 or something along those lines. It's okay. Obviously, we won't be able to go into it all in so much depth, but I think you'll find there's some interesting things there. Right, so let us then have a look here on the screen, on the wall. What we're going to do now, right now, we are going to go through the whole list of 21. And I advise you strongly, if you're really trying to do this as a student, write down at least, the name, the order they're in, and at least, a couple of words statement describing the particular anatha. Okay, so first of all is Putana. I'll say a little bit more about her in a few minutes when we've been through the whole list. She represents the pseudo-guru. We said there are 2 forms of the pseudo-guru. Second is Shakatasura. Yeah, and you should write all these things down, because you know what Prabhupada said? Prabhupada said in Kali Yuga, good memory means write it down. Don't fool yourself by saying, I'll remember. Ha, 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 ha. A joke. You will not remember. But if you write it down and you refer to your notes, you may. Yeah, because we may have a test. Fasten your seatbelts, be ready, be prepared. So you better just, focus, tune in. So all right, Putana, if you just say pseudo-guru, in a nutshell, you've got it. Second is Shakatasura, the cart demon. He represents carrying a cartload of bad habits and misconceptions from your previous materialistic life. Third is Trinavarta, the whirlwind demon. And he represents like material scholarship which blinds you to transcendental truth. You follow the idea? You know, you get all these materialistic scholars, they think they've got it all worked out. Life, what it's all about. But the more they accumulate that type of knowledge, the more they become blinded. So it's that knowledge, it's compared in this case to a type of, like a dust storm. I don't know if you've ever been in a dust storm. It's nasty. It's really, all you can do is close your eyes otherwise. Oh, it's really bad. So one way or the other, if there's a dust storm, you can't see anything. Then, okay, so that's number 3. Oh, look at that, it works. Okay, now we go on to number 4. The deliverance of Nalakuvara and Manigriva. Basically, it means the Damodar Leela, or, you know, the deliverance of the 2 young demigods. It's like an extension of the Damodar Leela. And that, the anatha there is pride from high birth and, you know, aristocratic background. I don't know here in Mauritius, but in South Africa, in the Hindu community, you get those who have the family name Maharaj. Family name means they're from Brahmin backgrounds. And even now in 2018, there's still a few, not many, but there's a few who think they're pretty cool because they're Brahmins. And they should be respected, even if they're just working in some ordinary job. Yeah, so deliverance of Nalakuvara and Manigriva. What we'll do, in fact, what we'll do this evening, you know, we have the 2 time slots this evening, tomorrow morning. So basically, we will go through in a little more detail after we've been through this whole list very briefly. We'll go through like 9 or 10 or something like that, or maybe 11, we'll just see, in a bit more detail. And then tomorrow we'll go through the rest in more detail. That's how we'll do it. So here we go then, number 5, Vatsasura, the calf demon. And this is very interesting. He represents anathas connected with children. Means, anyway, you can see there, anathas which children themselves in devotee families may face. Like, you know, computer games. What do you think? Or, yeah, I'm not up on, you know, I can say in all honesty, I've never played a computer game. Haribol. Congratulations to me. But I know some people, and particularly children, they get into it. So that's a fairly typical anatha which children, devotee children, may face. And then again, it's also anathas which parents may face, or just adults, in their dealings with children, thinking they're little, you know, just little cuddly little things we just hug and treat like that, rather than seeing them as devotees who need to be trained as much as we need to be trained, which is a lot. So then number 6 is Bakasura. Came in the form of Prabhupada says a duck, but it's more like a stork. If you understand stork, semi-aquatic, long-legged animal with a long beak. Represents, in a word, hypocrisy. Yeah. The number 7 is Agasura, who was one of 2 demons who came in the forms of snakes. The other, of course, was Kaliya. So again, in a word, in a single word, Agasura represents enviousness. But you could also, perhaps in a little more detail say cruelty, violence, like that. Number 8 is the Brahma Vimohana Leela. Vimohana, well, Mohana means, in this context, confusion. Vimohana means great confusion. V is a prefix of emphasis. Like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, what is it now? Paritra naya sadunam vinashaya chaduskritam. He delivers the devotees, and nash means to destroy. He destroys the demons, but he doesn't just destroy them. He vinash. He very destroys them. He smashes them to pieces. So Brahma Vimohana Leela means that pastime in which Lord Brahma, by Krishna's arrangement, became extremely confused. So it represents interesting anatha of thinking that Aishvarya, or the Lord's opulence, is more important or higher than the Lord's sweetness. The Lord's manifestation of opulence, grandness, power, majesty is higher than his manifestation as a cowherd boy in Vrindavan. Sweetness, beauty, very gentle often. Right. Let's see now. Oops. Oh, it's not working. Okay. Number 9 is Dhenukasura, the ass demon. Represents the mode of ignorance, gross materialistic intelligence. 10 is Kaliya. Of course, Kaliya is interesting in that Krishna did not kill him. Krishna did not kill, he didn't kill Lord Brahma, Lord Indra. Manigriva, Nalakuvera, Manigriva didn't get killed. Anyway, we'll go through. Most of them got killed. A few of them didn't. Kaliya, even though he was really bad, he didn't get killed. He became a devotee. So he represents, again, because he's a snake, there's similarity to Agasura. He represents particularly the anatha of poisoning the hearts of devotees by poisonous talk usually about other devotees. We'll go into that in due course. So number 11 is the first forest fire, there were two. This is now the first forest fire. The same evening, the evening of the day that Krishna subdued Kaliya. So this represents intercommunal discord among Vaishnavas. 12, Pralambasura represents the mode of passion, basically in a broad sense. 13 is the second forest fire. It represents atheism. 14, correcting the Brahmins, performing sacrifice. Again, he didn't kill the Brahmins. But the Brahmins that they represent becoming puffed up because of your position in Varnashram, that you're a Brahmin, or, I am senior to you because I have received first initiation, so I am superior to you. Yeah, that sort of type of pride. Then number 15, overcoming the pride of Lord Indra. This is the Govardhan Leela, which represents the anatha of demigod worship. I know very well amongst Hindu people, demigod worship, as Hindu people become devotees, those who do, demigod worship is, in my experience at least, often quite a challenge. I've been in many houses. I've been in so many houses of people. And in quite a few devotee houses, they have nice Krishna conscious altar. But then you go down the hallway, down to the back, and what do you find in one sort of little spot down the hallway? Oh, there's a quite heavily populated second altar. Shiva is there, and Durga, Ganesh, of course, Hanuman often, sometimes Muruga if they're Tamil, sometimes Madraviran. Do they worship Madraviran in Mauritius? You don't know? Some Tamils, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so that's the Govardhan Leela. Okay. And here we go, the last few. 16, Nanda Maharaj stolen by Varuna. Varuna is not killed. So it's an interesting anatha. Thinking that spiritual life can be enhanced by intoxication. I will smoke some ganja and chant Hare Krishna. Chant my rounds with deep concentration. Number 17, it's another snake, isn't it? Nanda Maharaj delivered from the snake, so there are 3 snakes. And this one gets killed, sort of. So, represents impersonalism. We don't find it happening much, but occasionally it happens. Someone who is a devotee, practicing for some time, somehow they get some bad association and they become impersonalists. It's not common, but it does happen. So then number 18, Shankachuda, represents trying to enjoy through Krishna consciousness. Basically like that. Enjoy some material pleasure. Then number 19, Aristasura, represents false religion. There are 5 specific types of false religion which we'll talk about tomorrow morning. It's quite interesting. So Arista Sura represents false religions. Number 20, Keshi, represents becoming proud that how I'm a great devotee, spiritual master, authority, some substantial person. Siksha Guru, I am a big Siksha Guru. And number 21, Vyoma Sura, represents associating with cheaters who put themselves forward, not just like as great devotees or something like that, but even as avatars, manifestations of the Lord, or possibly also just people who are dishonest, cheating people. Okay, so there you have a little introduction. Let's now go through until we go till what time is it? 9? Okay. I think you should keep number 1 up, the first page up. Yeah. While we go through these. So first of all is Putana. Putana, you may know the story. She's described in Brahmavaivarta Purana and in a book called Garga Samhita, which is a kind of Vedic, or it's like a corollary, something like that. But we hear that Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very appreciative of Garga Samhita. So she is described in those 2 books as being either the sister or the daughter of Bali Maharaj in her previous life. And when Bali Maharaj stole the universe from the demigods, and Aditi, the mother of the demigods, appealed to the Lord to appear to take the universe back, and he appeared as Vamana, as a little Brahmin boy, like a little brahmachari, very cute 5-year-old little boy with nice dhoti, very paka, nice tilak, really looking the part. And he came into the assembly of Bali Maharaj, and Bali Maharaj's daughter or sister, whose name was Ratnavali, she saw him and she thought, what a beautiful child. She was sort of teenage or something around that. And she thought, what a beautiful little child. I would like this child as my son. Then the whole pastime unfolded. I assume you're familiar with the pastime. The Lord asked for 3 steps of land. Well, Bali Maharaj offered, just ask for anything, and it's yours. And Lord Vamana said, okay, as much land as I can cover with 3 of my own steps. And Bali Maharaj sort of ridiculed him a bit, that you're just a child, you don't know the value of things. I'm offering you whatever you want. I'll give you a planet. You want a planet? I'll give you one. At least let me give you a village in Mauritius named Montagne Blanche. That's what it's called here. This is Montagne Blanche. Okay. At least that. But Lord Vamana famously answered, although not so many people are familiar with his answer, but a very important answer in terms of learning something from this. That if I cannot be satisfied with 3 steps of land, then I cannot be satisfied if I have the whole universe. This is very interesting instruction. Yeah. Material desire is such a thing. I remember when I was a child, actually, on television, there was an interview of, at the time, the richest man in the world, J. Paul Getty. And in this documentary sort of thing, Getty was asked, do you have a philosophy in life? And he said, yes. My philosophy can be summed up in one word: more. And that's what it's like. It really is. If material desire gets a hold of a person, they can just go on and on increasing. But as the singer said many years ago, I can't get no satisfaction. Have you heard that one? Oh, you haven't? Congratulations. You are good. Well, it's like that, yeah. You want to increase and get more because whatever you've got, it's not satisfying. And then you get more and it's still not satisfying. Anyway, so when Lord Vamana did that, stepped over the whole universe, took it all away, then the girl thought, all right, maybe I'll have him as my son. But if I do, I'll kill him. And she was born as Putana. And Putana, of course, she was like ghastly, monstrous witch. Really just a very horrific type of person. But she had mystical powers. And in fact, with a number of these demons, we'll see, they have mystical powers, great mystical powers. Not that they just produce a little ash or some small thing, one rasgula, but like Keshi could turn himself into a horse. Vatsasura turned himself into a calf. These people could do these things. So Putana, she transformed herself into a beautiful looking young lady, like sort of late teens, early 20s, that sort of stage of life. And she looked like the goddess of fortune. And when she came in to the village, then Mother Yashoda and Mother Rohini, who were both present, they saw her. And when she, Putana, walked into Nanda Maharaja's personal quarters where Krishna was, they didn't say anything. Like, where are you going? Who are you? What do you think you're doing? Because she looked so, on one hand, beautiful, just like outstandingly beautiful, but at the same time, very saintly and sweet. She was not one of these, en français, they say, femme fatale. One of these painted ladies who just, they do themselves up just to try to attract men. In Durban, amongst the Indian community, such a girl is called a rocket. Anyway, Hare Krishna, so much for that. So, no, this girl, Putana, she looked like an angel, just like an angel, like a very gentle, cultured, warm-hearted young lady. And therefore, even though she went into Nanda Maharaja's private quarters, because in those days, devotees, listen to this, just so we understand, get an idea of how far we have gone from Vedic standards. In those days, a married couple, they did not live together. Meaning, particularly, they did not sleep in the same anything, the same room, what to speak of the same bed. The men and the ladies had separate quarters. And, it was generally sort of what they call extended families, the brothers and uncles, and all of that. And the men would stay in one part, the ladies would stay in another part, and they wouldn't mix a lot. They would mix a bit, but they really wouldn't mix very much at all. During the day, the ladies would do things together, and the men would do things together. When I'm telling this part of the story in the sort of extended seminar, I mention about very interesting incident in Ramayana just immediately after Mother Sita has been apparently kidnapped, and Hanuman appears on the scene for the first time. And Hanuman, he's got a whole band of monkeys, and they live in the forest, and they know the forest. So he tells Lakshman, because Ram is just too overwhelmed, he can't speak. Hanuman says to Lakshman, okay, we will find her. Me and my friends will find her. And they did, of course, in due course. We will find her. Just tell me what she looks like. And Lakshman, famously, although many people don't know it, said, I don't know. And Hanuman thought that this is some sort of, joke or, sort of being a funny fellow, sort of wise guy. And he said, no, I'm serious. We will find her. Just tell me what she looks like. And Lakshman said, I don't know. And Hanuman said that, come on, tell me. I'm not joking. What does she look like? And Lakshman said, I don't know. I have never looked above her feet. And then he gave very beautiful description of the lotus feet of Mother Sita. And when Hanuman eventually jumped across and was looking around initially, where is Sita? And he found her, but he didn't really know. But, it could have been her in the Ashok Grove, and he gave her the ring. Am I right? He gave her the ring of Lord Ram, and she recognized it. But what really convinced Hanuman was not the ring. That helped a fair amount. But anyone can make a ring. Rings, they're extremely common. But markings on the soles of the feet, Sita has different markings. A fish, it's an elephant goad, and various things in the soles of her feet, not painted, but actually in the structure of the soles of her feet. And you can't manufacture that. And when Hanuman saw that, then he understood, this is Sita. But anyway, the particular point was about, Lakshman, he's the brother-in-law. And they're together. They've already been together for years, 24 hours a day. And Lakshman, as you're probably well aware, never slept. He never slept because he was always guarding 24/7. So he knew Sita. It's not like he didn't know Sita, but he never looked at her, never looked above her feet. And who knows the name of his wife? Urmila, okay. She slept for him. You know about this. She slept for him she slept for, I think, whatever it was, 14 years. Anyway, that's by the way. So, yeah, Putana. She came in, there was Krishna, and Krishna's lying in a cradle because Krishna is sort of a month or something. Prabhupada in one place says 3 months. Other places we see 1 month. Anyway, Krishna was pre-crawling. He had not reached the crawling stage yet. And he was lying on his back in the cradle. And Putana came and looked over and saw him. And there was a little flash from her previous lifetime. Motherly feeling. What an incredibly beautiful little child. But then it was gone. And the demoniac mood just overpowered her again completely. And she tried to kill Krishna, but Krishna killed her by sucking. He sucked the poison off her breast and then sucked her life out of her breast. And that was the end of Putana. And, of course, there are many things we could say about the pastime, but we've got to move on. But in regards to the anartha, well, we all know, particularly in Hinduism, you all know about the people who were pseudo-gurus, right? You know about them. I will not mention any names, but you remember the one who had the fuzzy hair? I didn't say that. I'm not talking about him. But he's the most prominent. But don't worry, another one will become prominent. As prominent in due course, because it's Kali Yuga. And Prabhupada in Chaitanya Charitamrita is talking about the bogus avatars. And he says that because some of these bogus avatars and pseudo-gurus, some of them are very popular and they're very successful. Means they get a lot of money. So a lot of people want to try to become bogus gurus or bogus avatars. Prabhupada said, so many people want to become bogus avatars, that so many that there is an oversupply. There's too many of them. And many of them cannot find followers. So they become, Prabhupada says, in some parts of India, you will find an unemployed avatar loitering on every street corner. Because he can't, he's not clever enough to attract people with clever talk or some mystical tricks or something. So you know about these people. Talking about the one with the fuzzy hair, and still not mentioning his name. In Durban, the leaders, husband and wife, the leaders of his organization in Chatsworth, which is the area where our main temple is in Durban, they started becoming devotees. And their son was even more a devotee. And now he's a sannyas candidate. Anyway, and this is quite some years ago, but they weren't sure what to do, and is it true or what's true? Because that group, they say that, well, he's a form of Krishna, his message is the same as Krishna's. So what they did, they gave me one of his books and asked me, please read through it and mark some places where he's teaching things different from Krishna. So you may know Prabhupada talking about the impersonalists. Prabhupada says that some of these impersonalists say that we are all God, but we have just forgotten. And now we just have to remember again. Oh yes, I'm God, and everything's fine. Prabhupada says that. So I opened the book, and you know what the first thing I read was? The first thing. We are all God, but we have just forgotten. And now we just have to remember, and we'll be God again. Seriously, I couldn't believe it. It was amazing. But then, it's not likely, I would say it's very unusual, extremely, that devotees will become confused by that sort of person. But the mind, that's another story, isn't it? Isn't it? Yes or yes? Shoo. The mind, the ever talkative mind, ever enthusiastic, the mind which is so happy to tell you that, look, we have been together for so many years, so don't reject me. I've given you so much good advice for years, so don't reject me. So anyway, the thing is, here what we're going to do in this regard is make like a suggestion or two how to overcome the particular anathas. In this case, how do you overcome the anatha of the mind and it's giving you misleading instructions, etc.? The thing is, it's sort of obvious. We have to become acquainted with the instructions of Srila Prabhupada, first of all, of Shastra, but particularly Shastra as presented by Prabhupada. Prabhupada, when he first presented Bhagavad Gita, he told the devotees, just take the translations of the verses from Dr. Radhakrishnan's Bhagavad Gita, because the translations are not so important. What's important is the purports. So they did that. And so the original Bhagavad Gita was like that. There are still copies floating around here and there. But there were some kind of serious mistakes in some of the translations, and they were pointed out to Prabhupada. Like in the 18th chapter, the duties, the natural occupational activities of a Vaishya. According to the Sanskrit, it's Go-Raksha. You understand Go-Raksha? You must understand. Raksha means to protect. Cow protection. It's literally cow protection. That version of Bhagavad Gita said cattle raising. So that was pointed out to Prabhupada. And a few other things. And so then Prabhupada did his own translations also. But Prabhupada definitely said The main thing is the purports. Yeah. So we need to, familiarize ourselves with Shastra, but particularly what Prabhupada has said. Yeah, particularly. Okay, let's move on to Shakatasura. Shakatasura came when Krishna, according to the Bhagavatam, was starting to roll over. He had come to that point. Mothers who are experienced with children, your child initially is just sort of prostrate. But after a while, they start trying to sort of move laterally. And after a while, they turn over for the first time. So when Krishna had just started turning over for the first time, after a few months, they have a ceremony, a particular ceremony. I can't remember the name offhand, but they have a particular ceremony where they bathe the child. Everyone assembles and they bathe the child in milk. And there's a nice painting in the 10th canto. I imagine you've seen it. There's this raised bathing bowl, and there's some ladies, and they're pouring milk, and there's some Brahmins, and you're familiar with that picture? That's the ceremony that they were having, because Krishna had just started to turn over. It has a name. And at the end, Mother Yashoda, as the good hostess, she was going around and speaking to the guests and thanking people for coming and this sort of thing. But she felt that Krishna had become heavy. This is Krishna's mystical power. So she put him down. She didn't want to just put him down anywhere where someone might trip over him even, or he might get knocked. So she put him underneath this big cart, underneath, so he'd be safe, out of the way. She put him there, and she went off to deal with the guests. But Krishna did not appreciate being abandoned like that. So Krishna started waving his arms and kicking his legs. And with one of his little lotus feet, he kicked the cart. And the cart, more or less, exploded. It just broke up, and everything just went flying. And on the top were the, they were in Gokula at the time. On the top were the Gokula food for life pots. Yes, the big ones, for food for life. They were on the cart with the spoons and the stuff and just all the things. And they all just went flying and came crashing down. So Mother Yashoda and everybody inside, suddenly they hear this really like terrible crashing and smashing sound. And they all came running out, and the cart is just disintegrated. Krishna's lying there, and some of the other children are there. Some of the slightly older children who can talk and move, walk, and so on. So the parents asked the children, what happened? And the children said, it was Krishna. He kicked the cart, and everything went flying. And the adults thought, oh, come on. Look at him. He can't even crawl. He can hardly turn over. And he just destroyed this thing. But the children said, it was him. So the parents just said, well, okay, anyway, at least he's alive. And they didn't get into it too much. One interesting little point, some means some acharyas say, that Shakatasura had taken the form of the cart. Some say that he was on the cart in a kind of like invisible type of form. But now that the cart was smashed, he was there in a human form. Yeah. So, then Mother Yashoda got the Brahmins to chant mantras for protection. And she and the other ladies marked Krishna's body with different markings like tilaks with mantras. You know, we should be aware when we mark our bodies with tilak, the main thing really is the mantras. The mantras empower the markings, and because they invoke the different forms of the Lord who preside over the different parts of the body where the markings are. Yeah. So yeah, they did like that. Anyway, there's the anartha carrying a cartload of bad habits and attractions acquired in this and previous lives. Also lethargy and dullness. Well, you know, when people become devotees, they bring their conceptions with them. You know, if you come from a Hindu background, which I guess every single one of you do, then you bring in usually some attachment to the demigods and, you know, Mata Pita Guru God and these different types of ideas. Am I right? No? You don't, right? No problem. And if people from Christian backgrounds, they bring in some Christian things. They really do. Oh boy. And sometimes they have a second altar too, which is Christian. It's not that uncommon. And you know, in South Africa now, there's a whole for a few years, a whole phenomenon amongst the African devotees of, you know, their culture, their actual culture, and their religion, traditional African religion, and the family ties. Yeah, so people tend to bring these things in because, you know the saying, old habits die hard. And nobody comes into Krishna consciousness with, like, you could say, a clean slate of consciousness. It's just never happens. Everyone comes in, we say, carrying some baggage with them, which normally means some ideas, some conceptions, some convictions, some understandings, and what to speak of just some attractions to material life. Yeah, sure. You know, in India, even to some degree now, but particularly going back like 20 years, 30 years, when India was not as economically advanced as it is now. And in Africa, the same thing happens, is that many people come to Krishna consciousness because they see the standard of living is better. You know, if I live in the temple, I will have better clothes, better food. I may even get a car. And living in the village, you know. So, yeah. So they come in, they're attracted to Krishna consciousness. You know, sometimes it happens because there is more opulence. And due to their conditioning, they just have this feeling, I must get more money. Well, what to do about that? You know, of course, there are many things we could say, but there's a famous verse spoken by Queen Kunti. You know the verse, Janmaishvarya Shruta Shribir, Edamana Madapuman, Naivarhatyabidatum Vai, Twam Akinchana Gocharam. That, my Lord, you cannot be approached by people who are attached to Janma, that I've had a high birth. I'm born in a Brahmin family from Flak or somewhere. Or Janma Aishvarya, I'm from a wealthy background. Shruta, that I'm very educated, I have a university degree, something like that. Shribir, I have physical beauty. Queen Kunti says, people who are attached to these things cannot approach the Lord with sincere feeling. Yeah. But you can only be approached by those who are materially impoverished. And, you know, there's the famous verse, it's in the 10th canto, Lord Krishna says, what is it? Maybe one of you can remind me of the Sanskrit. But Krishna says that when I like someone, I take everything away. And therefore some people think, Krishna, don't like me too much. I'm not so nice. I'm not so nice. I mean, I'll chant Hare Krishna, but, you know, don't become too attracted to me. Yeah. And there's a famous story, actually, in Mahabharata. Maharaj Yudhisthira approaches Lord Krishna after the battle, if I remember correctly, and says, my Lord, I have come to a decision. I want to make an appeal to you. He said, my Lord, I want money. I want lots of money. I mean, I really, really want really lots of money. And I want a huge palace, and I want 10 palaces, and many servants. And this is what I want. And Krishna said, really? Gosh, I thought all you wanted was pure devotional service. And Maharaj Yudhisthira said, no. I want as much wealth as possible. And Krishna was disappointed. And Maharaj Yudhisthira said, let me explain. He said, the thing is, many people, they think that if they surrender to you, you'll take everything away from them. They'll lose their money and so on. I want those people to see that here is a devotee who is really opulent. And then they'll feel encouraged. Oh, okay, I can surrender to Krishna too. Yes. Right. So, okay, next is Trinavarta. And you know that pastime. I think you know all the pastimes. According to somebody, Krishna, I think it's Gargasamhita. It's either Gargasamhita or Brahmavaivarta Purana. Trinavarta took Krishna up 1,200 kilometers into the sky. That's a long way. That's really a long way. But Krishna punched him in the face. And Krishna started strangling him. And Trinavarta became overwhelmed and he fell from 1,200 kilometers and landed on his head. You know, that's a serious problem for Trinavarta. So that was the end of Trinavarta. But Krishna came down and just landed on his chest. And Mother Yashoda, when the dust cleared, because Trinavarta, he spun. That's what happened. He spun, and that's what caused the whirlwind. So anyway, then Mother Yashoda found Krishna on the chest of Trinavarta. So how do we deal? You know, we've all been through some sort of material education. Some of you, I imagine, are university educated. Some of you may even have science degrees or something like that. And this is all part, that materialistic intellectualism, it's all part of what blinds the person to the simple spiritual truths. So what to do? What to do? Well, in very simple terms, the answer is study Prabhupada's books. How many of you have read all of Prabhupada's books? Every single last one. Put your hand up. I think I have. How many of you read the whole Bhagavatam? The whole Bhagavatam. How many of you read it twice? 3 times. I've only done it 3 times. Chaitanya Charitamrita, I don't know, several times. Yeah. But if you haven't read the whole Bhagavatam, you must read it. Okay? Okay. Okay. Because next time, not tomorrow, but next time I come, tomorrow, anyway, next time I come, I'm going to check. And any of you who haven't read the whole Bhagavatam, there'll be trouble. Okay? There'll be trouble. Can we just, hang on, let me see if it works. Oh, it's okay. Oops, there you went too far. Got to go back one. Okay. Okay, number 4. Deliverance of Nalakuva and Manigriva. So, of course, this is the Damodar Leela, and when we do the whole seminar, then we go through the whole Damodar Leela, actually, because it's such a beautiful Leela. But we won't do that. We'll just focus on the deliverance of Nalakuva and Manigriva as such. Krishna, he's tied to the grinding mortar. He dragged it along. It got caught between the two Arjuna trees and knocked them down. Out came Nalakuva and Manigriva. Are you aware? We were driving along last night, or in the afternoon going to a program in Petty-Riffray, and we went through just a short areas, like a kilometre or two, and there were Arjuna trees. Are you aware of that? You know what an Arjuna tree looks like? Could you recognize one if it walked up to you? Do you know what an Arjuna tree looks like? They've got very heavy root systems, and you can see the root systems. Yeah. And they brought them to Mauritius because of the cyclones. So as you all know Dinabandhu Prabhu from Vrindavan, I think. As he says, I have to give him the credit. He says that the Arjuna trees are so strong that even a hurricane cannot knock them down, cannot knock one of them down. But our Krishna, he knocked down two. Just see. He's very powerful. He knocked down two when he was just a child. So, I won't go into the details of the story. They were corrupted by aristocracy, wealthy upbringing. Not long ago, a family friend of mine, sort of my parents, from my childhood, contacted me from New Zealand. Surprise, surprise. A little while ago. And he's a businessman now. He's exactly the same age as me. And he's a businessman, and he has exclusive holiday sort of villas on an island just out from Auckland. And he told me that not long ago, I don't know when, but not long ago, Lady Gaga, have you heard of her? If you haven't heard of her, well done. But somehow she came and stayed in one of his villas. And because she's, such a famous person, he personally was looking after her. And he said she was so spoilt, like a spoilt child, that the local shop had run out of had closed, and the people had gone home. She'd needed a box of matches. He had to send a helicopter to Auckland to get a box of matches. And then she remembered some other thing, I forget. The helicopter went in one night 4 times to Auckland. It's like a half-hour flight to get, a box of matches, a block of butter or something like that. She just had to have it now, or else she was going to melt down. So yeah, wealth and all this, it corrupts people like fantastically. We don't really, you wouldn't really know unless you associated with such people. And not all of them, but some of them, they lose it. They become just sort of like Michael Jackson. He lost it. And he'd go to the shops and buy stuff for $250,000, like every Saturday. It's just crazy, literally crazy. So anyway, this is what happened to Nalakuva and Manigriva, and Narada Muni came, but they were, carrying on naked with some young women. When the ladies saw Narada Muni, they covered themselves. They felt embarrassed. But the two boys, they didn't care. Who's he? We don't care. So Narada Muni felt, they're so corrupted. The only thing that's going to help them is some, what we call sometimes tough love. Tough love. Sometimes, like with a child, the only thing you can do, and it's actually an expression of affection, is be strong with them. Sometimes you've got to be very strong. Although Prabhupada said never hit them. So Narada Muni decided they should become trees. And then they'll learn what it's like to be naked and just to be standing there. And he made a very interesting point. He made a very interesting point. Listen to this. He said that, these boys, they think they are their bodies, or they think their bodies are theirs. Either they think they are their bodies, or they think they're owners of the bodies. But, Narada Muni said, it is so obvious that these bodies are not us. That's one thing. But it's so obvious these bodies are not ours. Because when you're a child, your body belongs to your parents. They pick you up, put you down, they feed you, they dress you, they do everything. And you're just sort of a passenger through your childhood. And then you go to school. Then your body is the property of your teacher. And you must stand up or sit down whenever he says. And then you become an adult and a working person. Then your body is the property of your boss and your family, assuming, as most people do, get married. Then your body becomes the property of your family and your boss. And you're doing so many things for them and not so much for yourself. And then you get old and the body dies. Well, you get old and you become gradually more and more incapacitated. And you can't do anything with the body, you just sit there. Like my father, when I would visit my parents many years ago when they were living, when my father had retired, my mother complained that your father only sits in front of television watching the Muppets. You know what the Muppets is? It's stupid, totally. So then, then you can't do anything with your body, and then your body dies, and either it's burnt, and you can't do anything about it, or it's eaten, or, by insects or creatures. So he says, therefore, it is so obvious that these bodies are not ours. He says it's so obvious that if someone thinks this is my body, it means they're a rascal. Now, if you understand the use of this word rascal, it doesn't mean just like a naughty little boy or a naughty little girl. Rascal, as used in Indian, like old Indian English, it's a very heavy term. If you tell someone they're a rascal, they may hit you. It's a big insult. So in other words, if someone thinks that this body is mine, what to speak of thinking I am the body? But if someone just thinks this body is mine, it means like they're corrupt. They're just in a bewildered, degraded condition. It's very bad. You know the story Prabhupada told about the rascal? A man is sitting in the tree, sitting on a branch which is sticking out, and he is cutting through the branch between himself and the trunk of the tree. And someone comes by and says, "Hey, don't do that. You're going to fall." And the man is there sawing, and he says, "Get out. Don't try to tell me what to do." And suddenly, crash, he falls to the ground. And he asks the man who had advised him, he says, "How did you know that was going to happen?" Prabhupada says, this is rascal. It's not just stupid. It's not just stupid, but it's so bad, it's like it's corrupt. It's rascal. Yeah, so if someone thinks, what to speak of me being this body? If someone thinks that this body is mine, it's so obvious it isn't, that if they think it is, they're a rascal. So we must not be rascals too. Yeah, because it's easy. Many people, many devotees even think, okay, I am not this body, but the body is mine. Many devotees think like that. It's not true. Of course, to some degree, there's some truth. We have some responsibility and some control. But you cannot just say, it's my body and I'm just going to do with it what I choose. So what to do then? Well, Narada Muni says an interesting thing, that if someone is placed in poverty, then if a person is placed in poverty or suffering, they become more sensitive to the sufferings of others. And I can just tell you, about 9 years ago, actually, 2010, I had a type of an accident and I slipped a disc or herniated a disc badly. And I tell you what, if anyone offers to help you slip a disc, refuse. Don't do it, because it's bad. It is just too bad, actually. So I was in great pain until I got onto a system of exercise which relieved the pain completely. But for a couple of months, I was in extremely bad pain. And I remember, sometimes we're driving along the street. I couldn't drive. And I'd see some old person, sort of struggling along the road. And I would say spontaneously, I just felt, wow, look at that. Some empathy, sympathy was there in a natural way. And I'm the sort of person, if some old person's crossing the road and struggling and the lights turn green and but they're blocking the road and we can't drive, I think, what's going on? But then when that happened, I stopped thinking like that. It was the experience experience was such a lesson. So Narada Muni says like that in his, in that narration, that in this way, through poverty, through suffering, like as a tree having to just stand there for years and years, hot, cold, whatever, one develops empathy for other living entities, sympathy, feeling for others. And he says, in this way false ego is destroyed. Indeed, the person automatically gains the results of performing austerities and penances voluntarily. How's that? Some people voluntarily deny themselves some things, and they get some punya. It's more or less material, actually, but they get some material pious reaction. So when a person is just forced into a poverty-stricken or suffering condition just by karma or force of circumstances, they automatically get the same results as people who voluntarily do those things in order to get some material benefit. Saintly people can easily associate with very humble, poor people, but puffed up, rich people, they're not so interested, at least in many cases, in associating, taking the association of sadhus. So, anyway, yeah, like that. And so what should we learn from that? What do you think? I think we should learn simple living and high thinking. I think we should learn that, yeah. I imagine so many of you are working people, some of you may be business people, and you may be, reasonably well off. But even if you're in such a situation where you have a reasonable amount of money, beware of extravagance. Beware of just getting things just because you've got the money, and why not? And make sure you use the money in Krishna's service. Yeah. So, yeah, simple living and high thinking. That's the answer there. Let's see, where are we now? We are Vatsasura. So this is a good one. Vatsasura was a human being, but he took the form of an animal. And he took the form of a calf because he'd heard that Krishna kills demons. And he thought, I'm a demon, and I'm going to try and kill Krishna, but he may kill me. I may not be able to kill him. So what I'll do, because I know Krishna's very fond of cows, I will take the form of a baby cow, and then he may not kill me. Anyway, tough luck, Vatsasura. He got killed. Yes, so he represents anathas, you could say anathas to do with children, basically, in different ways. Anathas to do with children. That the children themselves may not want to practice Krishna consciousness because they're just children. Their intelligence hasn't developed yet. And, children are sort of like bundles of senses grouped around a mind. And they see things and hear things, and they become attracted or affected by sensory attractions very easily. And their intelligence hasn't developed so to really understand why Krishna consciousness. It's not so easy. So, therefore, for the parents, it is, what a responsibility it is. Instead of just seeing the children as being lovable little toys, but seeing this is a devotee, and I must train this person to become a devotee, even as a little child, and really try for that. That's a big responsibility. Actually, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he wrote an essay about this anatha. Would you believe? We don't really have the time to go through it, but we could make it available if anyone wanted to read it. It's really interesting, amazingly interesting. Let's just see a couple of the points he makes. So, he says, in effect, the merry nature of childhood is not bad and shouldn't be discouraged, but the only way to stop them from being misled is to somehow get them to become attracted to Krishna. Means the parents have to become intelligent enough how to present Krishna and Krishna consciousness to the children, so that the children actually become attracted and they want Krishna. I told the other day, it was in reunion, I think. Let me tell you a little story. There is a daughter of one devotee. She's a GBC member now, Mother Malati. Her daughter's name is Saraswati. Born a devotee. Now, Saraswati, born a devotee, is like 50 years old. Born a devotee. But at that time, she was like 3. Little child, really preschool little child. But very attracted to Krishna. And they were touring around India, Prabhupada, with the first group of devotees he brought to India. And one person at a program gave Prabhupada a little silver Krishna. And Prabhupada gave Krishna to Saraswati. And Saraswati was just, it was 24/7 with Krishna. Just non-stop. But being a child, at one point, she put Krishna down. And then she forgot where she put Krishna. And she became panic-stricken. And she's going around asking her parents, asking the other devotees, where's Krishna? Where's Krishna? Where's Krishna? And someone found Krishna and didn't know whose it is, so they gave it to Prabhupada. So now Prabhupada's got Krishna. And, the mother knew. Prabhupada has Krishna. Saraswati, it just clicked. Prabhupada. Not that she knew that Prabhupada had the little deity, but Prabhupada has Krishna. So she came running in, no obeisances, climbed on top of Prabhupada. Where's Krishna? Give me Krishna. Prabhupada was holding Krishna behind his back. And Prabhupada pulled out Krishna and gave him to her. So, yeah. So it's a great responsibility to bring up children so they really become devotees. Okay. Let's go on. What's the next one? Let's say Bakasura. Bakasura, hypocrisy. Well, you know, Bakasura was in the form of a sort of semi-aquatic bird. This pastime, if you're familiar with the Vrindavan area, it takes place between Chata and Varshana, if you're familiar with the Vrindavan area. Not far from a village called Anjanoka is the place where Krishna killed Bakasura. And still to this day, it's a sort of, it's like a wetlands. Not really like lakes, but it's wet. There are pools of water, and it's a wet area, quite an area. And there's a whole lot of Bakasura's descendants there. There's loads of them, yeah. These big, white, long-legged birds. So, Bakasura. Yeah, Bakasura looked like, the Bhagavatam says he looked like a mountain peak which had been struck by a thunderbolt and knocked to the ground. He's the semi-aquatic bird, but he looks kind of smashed up to some degree. And he's by this body of water. So, Krishna approached him. Bakasura grabbed him in his beak and tried to swallow him. But he found Krishna's body to be hot. And he spat Krishna out. I mean, there's a whole lot we could go into here. Krishna's body is hot. He experienced Krishna's body to be hot. Krishna's body is blue. The Brahma Jyoti is the effulgence of Krishna's body. Because Krishna's body is blue, the Brahma Jyoti is blue. The sky is the Brahma Jyoti, covered by matter. Did you ever think, why is the sky blue? The sky is blue. It's not green. It's not red or something else. The sky is blue. Why is the sky blue? Because it's the Brahma Jyoti, covered by matter, but it's still the Brahma Jyoti. And it's showing the color of Krishna. Is that interesting? It's very interesting. I find it interesting. So anyway, then Krishna grabbed the two parts of his beak, and devotees, this is not for those with weak stomachs, he broke his face in two. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says that Bakasura tried to make it look like he was meditating, but he wasn't. He was meditating on fish. He was a hypocritical meditator. In other words, in English we say if someone is a hypocrite, they say one thing to one person, another thing to another person. We say they're two-faced. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says, therefore Krishna gave him two faces by splitting his face in half. Yeah. Now, there is an interesting little bit of side information. Listen to this. Bhagavatam says that he looked like a mountain peak which had been struck by a thunderbolt and smashed to the ground. But it doesn't say how, why he looked like that. Garga Samhita gives a description. Listen to this. As Bakasura came to attack Krishna, because he's sent by Kamsa, the demigods knew. The demigods tried to stop him. So Indra threw his thunderbolt weapon, which knocked Bakasura to the ground, but then he got up again and continued. Lord Brahma hit him with his Brahma Danda, his characteristic. Krishna has a flute, Brahma has a stick. It's the Brahma Danda. Brahma hit him with his Brahma Danda, which knocked him unconscious for 1 muhurta, 48 minutes, but then he got up again and continued. Shiva struck him with his trident and cut off 1 wing. But Bakasura recovered. Vayu struck him with his wind weapon, but Bakasura flew away with 1 wing. Yama struck him with his Yama Danda, but the Danda broke. Surya attacked him with 100 fiery arrows, but still he didn't die. Durga attacked him with a sword. It had no effect. Kuvera struck him with his sword and cut off the other wing, but still he didn't die. Soma attacked him with his ice weapon. Bakasura fainted, but then got up again. Agni attacked him with his fire weapon and burned all his feathers to ashes, but he did not die. He's a tough guy. Varuna tied him with ropes and dragged him along the ground, which hurt him badly, but he did not die. Bhadrakali hit him on the head with her chopper and broke his head, and he fainted and went into a deep coma. But then he got up again, shook himself, and roared like a cloud. Muruga threw his Shakti weapon and cut off 1 of his feet. So now Bakasura, no wings, no feathers, only 1 leg. Poor Bakasura. This is why he looked like a mountain peak which has been struck by a thunderbolt and knocked to the ground. But then Bakasura attacked all the demigods and made them run away. Hare Krishna. So, okay, Bakasura, yeah. So what to do? What to do about duplicity? I don't know if any of you have a problem like that. Kind of changing the truth to sort of, make it acceptable to different audiences. Some people do that. The answer is really, at least we can suggest, try to be very simple and straightforward. Yeah. Simplicity. Simplicity is a very good quality. Prabhupada says, this is from Prabhupada, from a class. Prahlad Maharaj was in that position. He didn't care. He was very simple. His father wanted to chastise him in so many ways. Prahlad didn't care. He was always thinking, he's my father. He's joking, that's all. This is simplicity. This is simplicity. This simplicity is very valuable. So we should avoid duplicity. There is, I've got somewhere a statement here. I don't know where it's gone. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta makes the point that duplicity is extremely sinful. In the Bhagavatam 8th canto, in the story of Vamana, Bali Maharaj, the Lord is starting to step, and Bali Maharaj can see he's going to take everything actually. And what's his name? Shukracharya, his teacher, says, just tell him that you can't have any land. I'm breaking my promise. But Bali Maharaj says that this planet can tolerate any weight, but it cannot tolerate a liar. How's that? That's duplicity. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says something which I've got somewhere, but I can't find it right now. So we should be very careful to really try to be honest devotees. And the next one, look, we're making progress, but we've still got a way to go. I think the last one for today will be Aghasura, who's envious. And Aghasura, he took the form of a snake. The cowherd boys, they understood. They saw, hey, what is this? And they realized, it's a snake. Gosh. And he wants to swallow us. But then they thought, it doesn't matter. Krishna will save us. Let's just walk in. And they did. And there's a picture. It's in the old Krishna books. I don't know if it's in the Bhagavatam. There's a picture. The boys are just dancing into the mouth of Aghasura. And Krishna, who's in the foreground in the picture, he's standing, I think, on a rock. Anyway, he's in the foreground. And he's like this. Because he's thinking, wow, this material energy of mine is really amazing. Look at this Aghasura. He's just, wow, my material energy. Pretty good. So then Krishna entered. He followed the cowherd boys in and went right inside, and then he expanded himself. And he expanded himself to the point that he suffocated Aghasura. And it was good night, Aghasura. He just sort of burst, and the soul came out of his head or the top of his body like that. So we definitely shouldn't be envious. Let's just have a look, see what we say about these things. Aghasura. Envy, cruelty, yes. Well, here's something interesting. Listen to this. This is from the Bhagavatam, 4th canto, chapter 8. I think these are just translations of verses. Another son, Maitreya told Vidura, Another son of Lord Brahma was irreligion, whose wife's name was falsity. There's a sequence here. His wife's name was falsity, and she was his sister and his wife, Haribol. From their combination were born two demons named bluffing and cheating. There's a sequence here. 4th Canto, chapter 8, verse 3. These two demons were taken by another demon who had no children, and from them, means from the brother and sister, were born greed and cunning. When they, and again they're brother and sister, when they combined, came anger and envy. And when they combined, came quarrel and harsh speech. There's a sequence here in how these things manifest. If we become irreligious, then falsity comes. Then from that comes bluffing and cheating. And then from bluffing and cheating comes greed and cunning. And from greed and cunning comes anger and envy. And then from anger and envy comes quarrel and harsh speech. Then from quarrel and harsh speech came fear and death. Then when fear and death combined, came excessive pain as children. Their children were excessive pain and hell. Yeah. So anyway, we should be very careful not to be envious. Let's see. So we should, particularly amongst the devotees, it's really important not to become envious of devotees. Sometimes you're doing, like it often happens or sometimes happens in book distribution. Someone's distributing more books than you. And then you start thinking, I must beat him. Huh. I remember back in the good old days, that mood was there sometimes during the marathon, because everyone would go on the marathon. Oh, so many devotees, few hundred. And on one party, these two devotees, traveling party, they were having, it was very close competition. So one of the devotees one morning, he tied the other devotee's shoes together. Yeah, he had to cut his shoes apart. Then they were traveling, they were living in a van, and they would chant japa outside. You know what the devotee did? He locked the van, took a whole lot of books, locked the van, took the key, and went. And now the devotees are locked out of the van. So anyway, it's not good to do things like this. Interfere with other devotees' service. Yeah. If you get envious, if someone is a good cook and you're trying to cook, but they're a really good cook, and you become envious, and you think, right, I'm going to show them I can cook. Yeah, I'm going to cook something. I'm going to cook the best. I'm going to make some special halava. And the devotees will just, they'll be in ecstasy. And I'll show this other devotee I'm a good cook. But if you do like that, Krishna's intelligent. He's really intelligent. What may happen is that you make your halava, but you make a mistake. Instead of putting a kilo of sugar, you put a kilo of salt. And the devotees take one mouthful and horror. Oh, disaster. So if we become envious and, if we're nasty to devotees, then Krishna will make some arrangement and we will learn a lesson and it will hurt. This is tough love. Actually, Krishna is trying to correct you, but it hurts. Hare Krishna. Okay, devotees, so that'll do for this evening. We should finish right now, I guess, yeah? It's 9:00. Or can we take a question? Or is it tomorrow? Tomorrow. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna.